The ketamine journey was one of my challenges this year. A friend who cares very deeply about me referred to it as, horse tranquilizer. You are one of the most well-adjusted humans I know. Why would you use a horse tranquilizer? And really came aggressively. I think people come from a good place and good intentions, but I also think people function from fear. I have always made it my mission that at least once a year, I try to shoot for twice a year to do something that is overwhelmingly challenging for me. Because I really feel like when you can challenge yourself, mind, body, and spirit, there is a whole different level of what's available to you on the other side of that. Get informed before you form an opinion about anything.
Welcome to the My Self Wellness Podcast. I'm Charles Patty, the voice of My Self Wellness, along with my co-hosts Christina Thomas and Jamie Venziel. 9 years ago, I began my journey to self-awareness and healing. Like many who have faced personal struggles, I felt lost and struggled to find lasting healing. It wasn't until I discovered alternative healing methods that I began to see a real change in my life. This show will help you unlock your true potential through healthy lifestyle practices and transformations. Join us as we explore personal stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you step into your true potential and level up. Welcome to the My Self Wellness Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the My Self Wellness Podcast. Today, we have Kristen Cullen. She is a resilience mentor, entrepreneur, and founder of the Remarkable Resilience Program. She's based in Naples, Florida, and helps individuals overcome their challenges, builds inner strength, and helps them live a more purpose-driven life. Kristen is also a speaker, cancer care advocate, and she's passionate about mental health and gratitude practices. Welcome on our show.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. On top of all of that, Kristen just did treatments with us, and that was pretty interesting. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I guess I would love to start off with what really got you into the line of work that you're doing.
So I've been doing personal branding strategy since 2011. I brand people as a service, and I serve clients in 13 different countries, and I started noticing a commonality of a guard. And, people would spend a lot of time and money to work with me, like in a 2-day intensive, and at the end of day one, hey, what do you want me to do for homework? And I'd say, don't bring your guard. And they're like, oh, I'm guarded. Like people live in a space of denial and resistance, really. And I started really focusing on how can I help those people, because I can't effectively assist someone in building their brand if they don't believe in themselves. As we all know, there's a lot of unhealed people in our world. And, while we can't serve 8 billion people, we can certainly help, people one by one. So I'm really committed to people living a joyful, founded life. And that's an internal job. It's not based on other things and other people and buying things and how much money you have in the bank. And it really had nothing to do with socioeconomics. Didn't matter if they were a billionaire or a startup. This is a commonality. This is a human thing. And mental wellness, the journey of self-healing is a journey. There's no destination. So it's been the most gratifying work. And about 70% of my resiliency clients will transform into branding clients because they never really saw themselves as a way to serve in the past. But once they start owning their story and who they are, they see that there's someone that they can serve to.
I love that, building people up so they can have a life of service.
Absolutely.
And just so everybody knows out there, Christina and I have actually been working with Kristen on our personal branding. And so in the near future, when you start seeing all of it popping up or whatever, it's because of doing amazing work with her. So
it's been so fun.
Yeah.
What's a challenge that you've overcome through resilience?
Through resilience. Oh gosh. So one thing that people don't understand is that we all have resilience. It's not something that's unique to me or unique to certain people. Every single one of us has resilience. It's about tapping into it and really knowing how to use it. Does that mean I don't have bad days? Of course I have bad days. I just give myself permission to sit in the shit, as they say, for a specific amount of time. And then I'm like, all right, after this, by this moment or this time or what have you, it's typically moments, it's not days in my case. I'm going to get into action and be a part of whatever that solution is. Loss, as I mentioned, is a big part of my life. And, grief and processing grief is really, really important, and allowing ourselves to sit in the pain. And, but also remembering the beauty of that relationship. There's always a yin and a yang. You can't have grief without having deep love. And so I really focus on the deep love that I've been able to share with some wonderful people in my life. And resilience, or being resilient, the act of being resilient, which is by definition, the ability to bend without breaking. It's just something that I've naturally been able to show up as in the world. And so because of that, people tend to gravitate towards me for support. I tend to be the confidant, the caregiver. I would say that I'm a professional space holder for others. And it's not therapy. It's not medically based. It's not faith-based. It's just really a commitment to holding a safe space for others with no judgment. The stories I'm going to take to my grave are the stories that these people have entrusted me with. And they share themselves openly out of a commitment to learn how to be resilient. And they tap into my programs to be able to do that. And it is profoundly satisfying and gratifying just to see these people heal right in front of my eyes. And also, too, remember, life is life, right? It throws us curveballs on any given day. It doesn't mean your mindset's going to be immediately different. It doesn't mean that you're all of the sudden not going to have struggles. It just means that I'm going to help them. I'm going to give them like a toolbox. And then when life happens or old patterns are showing up, they're like, well, wait a minute. I'm doing this again. Let me tap into what I learned and go a different direction. And that's really what it is. It's just being equipped. So in a long drawn out answer to your question, resiliency has just helped me be able to keep on moving forward and moving upward.
I think that that's like a really important thing, is that, to keep on moving forward and keep on doing the work, but like also being able to not compartment or put, I lost the word to say it, but to stuff everything and to just keep moving forward, compartmentalize.
Yeah. All suppressing is going to do, and not dealing with things, is eventually our body's going to tell us. I personally went through that years ago, just suppressing, and that was really the turning point. That's when I started stepping into my truth, and I didn't know that I was damaging myself just by keeping on. You really do have to process
100%,
and then let it go.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we're back here again.
I know, where we met.
Yes, but we actually met here at in the Grit Studios, where I was walking in one day and Kristen was on another show walking out, and we met and exchanged cards, and I told her kind of what we did that
I'll never
day.
forget the meeting. I was walking out. You walked in, you handed me your card, and you said, "Hi, I'm Charles, and I do psychedelic ketamine therapy." And I looked at you.
We're working on that, by the way.
And I looked at you and I said, "So nice to meet you. That's really great." I had no idea what that meant. I heard psychedelic and my ears perked up, but I didn't know anything about what you did. And then that evening, you showed up at another event that I was at, and you kept on crossing my path. And I do pay attention to the signs from God. I really do. And days later, you crossed my path again with Christina, and you just kept on showing up in my life. And so I pay attention.
Me too. I told Christina, I said, I keep seeing her everywhere. This means something. I don't know what it means yet, but I just got to figure this out, because obviously God keeps on putting her on our path, because we're supposed to do something.
I'd made a decision that whatever rule that was, you just kept on showing up, and I just made the decision. I knew that you and I were going to do some work together. I didn't know in what capacity. And then as I, studied clinical ketamine therapy more and more, I started realizing that it was something that I was really, really interested in. And at the time, I was interviewing facilitators for ayahuasca, and which is something that I'll probably eventually do as well. I'm really all about doing the hard things and healing. And healing is a journey; it's not a destination. So I was interviewed on a podcast not long ago, and they said, "How long have you been doing self-introspective work? How long have you been doing these programs?" I was 19 and I'm 54 now. So gosh, to say 35 years, I've been doing programs like Inner Child and The Forum with Landmark Education and Tony Robbins and Joe Dispenza and you name it. But there's always room to learn more. But it's also, there's this fine line about constantly looking to do and improve and get better and continue that healing journey. And also just taking stock in what you have accomplished and really owning it and celebrating those small wins and celebrating the setbacks, because I do believe in loss and disappointment and failure as opportunities for growth. I don't actually look at those as a negative. And I kept on feeling this bizarre sensation. And as I had shared with the two of you before I did the journeys, all I could explain it as or describe it as was almost like a residue. I felt like I had a residue in my system. I was waking up tired after 8 solid hours of sleep. I'm hormonally balanced. It's like I'm checking all the boxes. I'm doing all the right things. I'm probably healthier than I've ever been, all mind, body, and spirit. So why was I feeling this bizarre residue? And I was looking for ways to address it. And, I do a ton of reading. I probably read about 60 books a year. I read a book called The Map of Consciousness. And I started really paying attention to, there's a whole nother world that I've never tapped into. I've never been a drug user. I don't really even drink alcohol. I gave that up socially. So, what is that other state of consciousness? And so I started really leaning into that and paying attention and started getting to know the two of you and your personal story through your own journey. And I just made the decision I'm doing it. I felt really safe. And your onboarding process with your staff was welcoming and engaging. And so, we'll talk more about that as you want it to roll out.
I love that, and thank you. We really try to make sure that we do our best to make everybody feel as comfortable and safe as possible. So, listen, this kind of goes to the whole point of, Kristin had done so much personal work over the last 35 years. It was just this continuous leveling up throughout her journey. And then she hit this pivotal point where she was just like, hey, listen, I'm in a really good place right now, but I think that I'm ready to, if there isn't anything else that I need to work on, go ahead and address that and really take this to the next level. And so it just goes to show people, because I think it's a big misconception out there that when I talk about ketamine or psychedelic therapy, people are like, oh, well, I wouldn't need that. I'm not messed up like that. Or oh, isn't that for suicidal veterans and stuff, or people that have severe substance abuse problems and stuff like that. And it's yeah, it is for all of those things. But I think it's a really important message for people to know that this isn't just for that. This is for anybody that's trying to expand their consciousness and really take their life to the next level.
Yeah, I think all of that is incredibly accurate. And I remember saying to Dr. Ferber when I was doing the onboarding, of course, I'm walking in and I'm telling him all these wonderful things I've done over 35 years. And he humbled me greatly. He just said, I was you 50 years ago. You just stop looking. Just be open, surrender. And I said, well, how do I not look? I've spent really my entire adult life looking and up-leveling and improving and healing and all the things. And I was quite proud of myself, which is an ego-based, behavior, really. And he said, he put his hands on my shoulders and he looked deep into my soul.
He does.
And yeah, that huge energy exchange. And he said, just take a breath and let the medicine do what it needs to do for you. And so because I didn't have a measurable result or expected result, I wasn't going to the journeys like, hey, medicine, please help me not use today. Or, hey, medicine, please help me not feel anxiety today or depression today, or any of the ailments that people typically will come to you for. I literally surrendered every single journey and I just said, hey, medicine, give me what I need. And I really leaned into that. And here's what I realized. And, if you talk to my kids or my boyfriend or, people who are close to me, and it was really about giving up control. And because, again, I hold space for other people. it's not that my children or my family or my partner or my deceased husband aren't great people in my life, but I do believe that some people are called to be holding space for others, and some just aren't. And I have literally never had anyone holding space for me. And that's not a complaint. It's just my reality. And I will say 100% what really had me lean in was this level of care, feeling loved and feeling incredibly safe. I'm not a social drug user because I don't like to be out of control of myself. I'm not looking to escape my reality. That's just, I love my life. And Gina specifically, who's your integration nurse, she's gifted. She is so living her calling. And that's every single one of my journeys. I just felt incredibly loved, supported, and safe. And that's huge for me to be able to give that to somebody else.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I appreciate you saying all that. And yeah, and Gina is amazing. Like everybody talks about how great she is. And like, I literally have to go up to her almost on a daily basis and just be like, thank you for being so amazing.
Yeah.
So I would love to get into like, we talk about the journeys.
Okay.
And so I would
Give
love
it to us. I know it wasn't always easy for you. So.
Yeah.
It wasn't. So, typically going into the journeys, it is recommended to do 2 a week for 3 weeks. There was no way, especially early on, that my body could handle 2 in a week. I was really down for a whole day. In fact, my first journey was in the morning, 11:30 in the morning. So I'll just kind of walk your listeners through the experience. You all called me because you weren't going to be there. And you're like, listen, if you have a little anxiety and anxiousness, that's normal. And I'm like, no, I'm super excited. Let's go. Let's do this. I was so pumped and excited to do it. So I literally went into it with absolutely no apprehension, 100% feeling excited and safe. You get pre-dosed with Zofran, which is an anti-nausea, just in case you get an upset stomach. Some people do, but not all. I think it's less than 3%. And I think I took over the entire 3%. You can't drive. You're all about making sure all those safety boxes are checked. So my boyfriend dropped me off, went to the gym, came back and sat with me post-treatment. And I really, really struggled coming out of the first journey. The journey itself was lovely and beautiful, very indescribable. Saw lots of shades of purple and green, and I just felt like I was floating in
a juicy grape.
Yeah, juicy grape was number 2.
Yeah, that was the second.
That was number 2. But the number 1, it was just I just felt just love, and I felt like I could see textures. So it looked like everything was just kind of floating and rolling into the other. And then we looked at it after, and purple and green, signify rebirth and healing and spirituality. I'm like, all right, well, that totally makes sense. You're half dosed. So you get the shot intramuscularly, or I did anyways. And then 15 minutes in, just again, safety is first, and making sure that you're acclimating well, you're on camera. You're laying in this lovely, automated recliner with a fuzzy blanket. You're on camera, being monitored. It's just, how can you not feel super safe? I got to pick my music. I love music. So I had a playlist that I chose. They give you Gina will sit and give you a choice of 3. You have an eye mask on, and you really have no concept of the physical world or time. You're told it'll last about 40 minutes, but you really have no perception of that. And so it was just a really lovely, nice feeling, just warm and fuzzy. But as I was emerging out of it, I was overwhelmingly nauseous. And if anyone who knows me, I'd rather be in pain than be nauseous. Nauseous does not work for me. So your staff came in and they dosed me again, and I went into the integration room, and I was really, really struggling. And then eventually I was able to, I was ready to leave. Brian brought me home, and I went right to bed for 4 hours. And then we had decided, I had called you and I said, I need to move all of my treatments to the last treatment of the day so I could be functional in the morning for work or what have you. And then I just knew I was going to go home to bed anyways. And then, number 2, it was, I woke up the morning of 2 and I had a horrific headache, and I knew my body was just resisting. And, but I showed up and did the journey. And that's when I felt like a big, juicy grape. There was something about, I saw this big, stone sculpture that I had seen in Fort Lauderdale the week previous, which was this woman, and it was hollowed out and people were walking through. It was this huge sculpture in Los Olas, which I had shared with y'all. And that kept on floating around. And then I could see Dr. Ferber's eyes were coming through that soul. And I could hear his voice saying, stop looking, stop looking, stop looking, as I'm looking at his eyes. And then I woke up and I said, I felt like a big juicy grape. And so that made no sense, but it felt good. And again, love, safety. The nausea wasn't as bad coming out of number 2, but I was heavily pre-dosed this time and post-dosed.
With the anti-nausea medication.
With the anti-nausea medicine, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then went home and rested for about 4 hours and woke up and ate. And then you want me to bring you through all 6?
Well, what kept you going in between?
I was just and that's a good question.
It was actually
conversation in your head,
it was
right?
2 going into 3 that was the harder one. So I woke up the morning of 3 and, well, actually coming out of 2, the night of 2, I was really nauseous and I was really struggling. I was emotional about it. And then the morning of 3, I woke up and I actually started crying. And that's not often that you see me cry, not because I'm stoic. It's just not that person. And Brian just said, you don't have to do this. Like it's hard. I think it was hard for him to see me struggle because he'd not seen that before. I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. And about 10 minutes later, and this is an example of just stand in your shit. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to feel this for a moment. I'm going to snap out of this. I committed to doing this. And there's a reason why I committed to doing this. If I'm resisting it, if my body is saying, don't do this, I got to lean into it. I really am of the mindset we do hard stuff. And I leaned into it and I had no nausea in number 3. And your staff was amazing. They actually woke me up. They're like, how you feeling? I'm like this. I'm like, there's no nausea. This is so great. And so then that was a total reset for me. And I think what happens when you go into something with the fear of something, you rob yourself of the full-on experience. Even though I had very visual experiences 1 and 2, and then 3, I was flying. I was flying over the Greek Isles, which is my favorite place on earth. It's part of my ancestry. My grandfather was from Greece or Macedonia. I'm not supposed to say Greece. And I could smell the air and I could smell the food and I could hear the Greek guitar. It's got a very specific sound. So I'm coming out of the journey and Gina's interviewing me. And I said, it's so wild that I chose a playlist that had the Greek guitar in it. She goes, we don't have any string instruments in our playlist. Like you were there. And I said, and again, I looked at that as being rooted in love. I was connecting it with my ancestry. I was connecting with the place that I gravitate towards that I absolutely love. And I felt really excited and renewed. And I came out of 3 looking forward to 4.
See, that just goes to attest to Kristin being resilient and that warrior spirit and that warrior heart. It's like a lot of times when people embark on these journeys, if it's not nausea, it might be something that comes up that they have to process through that might be a little bit tough or something like that. And we're always encouraging people, just trust the process. Don't quit before the magic happens or whatever. Right. And like you came in, you did that next treatment.
Most people would have quit.
Yeah, most people would have quit. And you had this beautiful experiences that was rooted in love. And
yeah, I actually believe wholeheartedly that when you are whether it be your lowest or your biggest struggle, you are just on the other side of that big breakthrough or that big experience or that aha moment or however you want to coin it. So it really took 3 full treatments for my body to identify the ketamine as, oh, this is okay. This is safe. And my body just to actually be accepting of the medicine. I don't refer to it as a drug. I refer to it as a clinical medicine. And going into 4, that was pivotal. So I went into 4 and I was flying again, and I was flying with my dad. And my dad, as I mentioned earlier, today is his 10-year passing. And my whole life, my father suffered a stroke on my 4th birthday and was fully paralyzed on his left side from the age of 32 to the age of 72 when he died. And in the journey, my dad had no limitations physically. And we're flying next to each other. And he was he was my mentor, my best friend, my confidant, all the things. And he said, "How's my girl?" He would always say, "How's my girl?" Like he'd call me up, "How's my girl?" or "How's my girlfriend?" And I said, "Dad, I'm great. I'm really great." And 2 weeks before he died, he called me randomly one day and he just said, "I just want to let you know how much I love you and how proud I am of you." And my dad always said, "I love you," but he never said, "I'm proud of you." He was one of those old school guys who didn't believe in, giving that type of encouragement out of fear we would stop trying harder. He was hard. He was tough. And he said, "Gosh, he goes, it is so fun to watch you doing what you're doing and changing the life." Like if this whole on acknowledgement. And it was just really beautiful. And we were just flying and floating. It was over water. I don't know exactly where. And then all of a sudden, my boyfriend's father, Bo, who we lost at the end of June of just this year, came in on. So these are both major alpha men and very similar style parenting. And Bo comes in on the other side of me, and he referred to my boyfriend as Tiger, and it was his only son. And he just said, "I want to thank you for saving Tiger's life." And my dad said, "That's my girl." And I'm flying with these 2 men. And then all of a sudden, my father-in-law, who was from Ireland originally, would have been 102 this year. He comes in on the rear, and I called that me and my 3 dads. And so I'm just flying with all of this love and acknowledgement, and it was just a beautiful journey. And again, rooted in love. Again, this overwhelming presence of love and acknowledgement. And going into 5, Brian was out of town. So Christina was kind enough to say, "Listen, I don't want you going longer than a week," but I didn't feel safe enough going home without someone there. It's just an added precaution. And he was flying home that evening. So you were kind enough to bring me home. And in that journey, I wasn't flying this time. It was the only one I wasn't flying in. And I opened a door and I could see a window. And before I could see anything else, I could smell my deceased husband's cologne. And so I knew he was in the room, and I kind of turned around the corner and he's standing next to the window and he's smiling, and he used to call me lover. And he said, "Hi, lover." I said, "Hi." And I just go right up to him and we're just embracing. And the girls could see that I was crying, and I could feel myself crying, but I wasn't crying out of pain or grief. I was crying out of this overwhelming sense of receiving his love and just really happy to make connection with him. And so he's holding me, and then the door opens again. And it's Brian, and who is not deceased. He is very living. And he walks into the room, and he walks over, and I go to introduce my deceased husband to my current boyfriend. And at 54 years of age, I've only been in love twice. I've dated men, but I've never committed my life to any other man, just the 2 of them. And they embrace, and I'm in the middle, and I called it my threesome. And there was such an overwhelming amount of love. Like it was like so overwhelming and beautiful. And there was no pain. It was, again, just this receiving of love. But I was literally physically sobbing. So when I woke up, there was a box of Kleenex next to me because the girls could see I was crying. And I was super excited about that experience and just connecting them. And early on, when Brian and I started dating, my daughter, my youngest, said to him, I was talking to my brothers and we agreed you'd be best friends with our dad. And Brian started crying because that's such a compliment to receive from 3 children of a deceased man who was highly regarded. And there was just a lot of healing and love in the room. And I really came out of that journey just in a space of, I can't believe that just happened. And what was interesting was between journey 4 and 5, I had a massive emotional purge at home. Like that lasted like 2.5 hours. Just this huge release. Literally saw, they kept on meditating at home a lot. I felt the need to meditate and I kept on crying. It was just like, I was so exhausted from crying. You know, like a baby cries himself to sleep. I went to bed that night, slept 5 hours, woke up, literally the best sleep of my life. I felt refreshed, and I don't wake up tired from my sleep anymore. That's one of the measurable results. It's like almost like whatever that layer, that residue was, has been lifted. And then in fact, you said, it's so odd that someone living shows up in the journey, and Brian was flying home, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So of course I'm texting, are you okay? And he said, yeah, I'm on the airplane. I said, okay. And you drove me home. And what was interesting was I didn't wake up nauseous or anything. But the minute I walked in my door, I had a massive physical purge, not to be descript, but actually both ways. And then once that, just the one time, and then I was okay. It was like my, whatever it was needed to just get out of my body. And the sleep, definitely, like the quality of sleep, waking up refreshed, has come back. I don't even know if I've ever had it, to be honest with you. Energy is good. Brian has told people that I have this lightness. I'm always pretty laid back and chill. Like I'm not really an intense person, but there's a lightness that just more of an ease about my being and my presence. And so, gosh, we finished all the treatments, and then we were going into the 6th treatment. And on the way there, I just said, I'm so curious. I can't imagine what number 6 is going to give me. I've been given so much. And I went into 6. And other than just feeling good, I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. And I really took that as the medicine saying, it's given me everything that I've needed. And I was really at peace with that. And I was really complete with that. And just really feeling like this is a calling for me to be a conduit for other people. And I've had people say to me who, in my personal life, who knew that I was doing the ketamine journey and had said to me, I'd never have done it had you not done it first. I shared it with my kids over the holidays. And my 21-year-old said, well, it's not every day. You know, mom tells you she's doing ketamine. And I said, I'm not doing ketamine. And I explained the whole journey and told them that I would support them if they chose to also embark on that journey. And was it 2 weeks ago I called you? So this is a month, 6 weeks after I finished. We were driving across the state. I went to go see a client who had a book release over in Boca. So it's an 1.5-hour drive. And we're driving.
You to share that story. So I'm glad we're getting.
Yeah. And we're driving across the state late at night. I love music, but I am not a good singer, but I sing anyways. And one of the things that I lost the ability to do is change the octaves of my voice. In fact, my voice got deeper after COVID. I've had COVID 4 times. I just look at it like it's a virus, it's whatever. But I did lose my ability to change the octaves of my voice when singing in the shower or singing in the car or what have you. And we're driving across the state listening to yacht rock, and Michael McDonald comes on and the voice goes here, and Brian and I are singing, and it dawned on me I could sing again. It was wild. I mean, the ketamine didn't make me a great singer. It just gave me the ability to hit all the octaves. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can hit all the notes. And I called you the next day and you'd said, yeah, you're finding that the long COVID, I guess, is what I had. It's got anti-inflammatory benefit to it.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I love hearing that story. It looks like it's doing a whole bunch of different things for COVID now with like you. So now the brain fog and then you bringing this up. So that's pretty interesting. I would love to hear your take on, so like you being who you are and doing what you do with working with people and being in that good place in your life from like people that you were close to from an outside perspective that might have thought like, what are you doing this
Oh, yeah.
for? What would you like? So like, I would love for you to like kind of talk about why you think it's important for people that might have that kind of attitude, like, or not important, but like what kind of light you would like to shine on that.
Yeah. So I think people come from a good place and good intentions. But I also think people function from fear. And we all have fear. I have fear too. Of course I have fear. Fear is something you feel, right? Courage is something you do in the face of fear. And I have always made it my mission that at least once a year, I try to shoot for twice a year to do something that is overwhelmingly challenging for me. So let me give you some examples. I've jumped out of an airplane. I've hot air balloon raced. I've bungee jumped. I've raced a car. I've flown an airplane. I thought it would be a really cool idea in 2006. I woke up in first week of January and I said to my husband, I'm going to run a full marathon this year. And he's like, that's cute. You don't run and you can't run. And he was a triathlete. And I trained for 6 months and I ran a full 26.2 miles in June of 2006. And I didn't get the running bug. I still do not like running, but it was such a mental challenge and obviously a physical challenge for me. I did the Tough Mudder with, like, everyone was half my age. I did the Spartan. I like doing these things. And because I really feel like when you can challenge yourself, mind, body, and spirit, there's a whole different level of what's available to you on the other side of that. And ketamine, the ketamine journey was very much, that was like one of my challenges this year. That and being on the cover of a magazine. For me, those were two very uncomfortable spaces for me. And I was able to do both of them in 2024. I think ignorance is a big part of when we talk about alternative therapies, plant medicine being one of them, ketamine therapy being another. I think that just people come from fear and ignorance. And rather than take the time to get educated and informed, there's just, I call it the already always mentality. You think you know, but you don't know. I did have an exchange with a friend who cares very deeply about me. And, they refer to it as, horse tranquilizer. You are one of the most well-adjusted humans I know. Why would you do such a thing? And, why would you use a horse tranquilizer? And really came aggressively about it. And I continued to try to explain the why, but I was being spoken over. And then Brian happened to be a part of the conversation. And he actually kind of stepped in and said, you need to listen to her. Let her tell you why. And it dawned on me that they were so concerned something was going to happen to me. So when I adjusted my response rather than explaining, it was acknowledging their fear. And
so quick question. So like for somebody that would be listening out there that might be operating from that place of fear or ignorance, and not like in a talking badly about somebody ignorant way, just like uneducated on the subject.
Sure.
What would your message be to somebody?
It would be get informed. 1,000,000%. I am probably life's biggest an investigator. I don't do anything without fully becoming informed, well aware, looking out at the pros and the cons and the risks. I'm not a gambler, but I am a risk taker, but I'm a calculated risk taker. I'm all my kids have. Yes, they have partners, but my point is I'm the only parent they have. And to be irresponsible would be the worst thing you can do as a parent, in my opinion. And so get informed before you form an opinion about anything. Just get informed. And I never, ever, ever recommend or suggest anything to anyone unless I've done it first. So whether it's in the branding space, using a photographer or a visual identity expert or a website designer or anything health related, I'm perimenopausal, I'm middle-aged, so I'm doing all the things. So I would never recommend hormone replacement as a possibility unless I personally was doing it, which I am. ketamine therapy is the same type of thing. It's like, look, it provided me with some clarity and relief with something that I couldn't identify, but there was no guarantees. But I think because I surrendered and I leaned into it, and I was as open-minded and open spiritually as I could be, I think it was almost impossible for me not to get some type of benefit from it. And it's almost like I still feel like I do feel like it continues to work. It's this
You feel like the residue is gone?
The residue's absolutely gone, and I think that's why Brian's saying I'm showing up in this more light-hearted space. And I'm going to venture to say, obviously, it was probably a lot of grief build up in my body. I mean, you don't have 13 losses in 15 years and not have it affect your mind, body, and spirit, no matter how good your intentions are and no matter what your outlook is or how you process loss. It definitely, I definitely feel like no residue whatsoever at all. I mean, I couldn't recommend it more to anyone, whether it be someone similar to my journey. It's like not this pinpoint, hey, I want to deal with this or treat this. Or, I've had some people say to me, well, what if you open a door you don't want opened? And I said, well, I get that. But if that's there and it's looming and it is holding you down somewhere. So you are in such a safe environment to open that door and process it and deal with it and let it go. Why would you not want that relief? Because again, I think we live in a space of we don't know what we don't know as well. We all have trauma. We all have childhood memories that are negative and positive. We all have it to different degrees. And why not tap into that and really release yourself from harboring and holding on to anything that could negatively impact your life?
If you have one message to the world, what would it be?
Well, it would be surrender. I think surrender and receive. I think we struggle with both as a society, just giving it up and leaning into it and then being willing to receive the gift, no matter what that is. I've always had a hard time receiving, whether it be a compliment or a gift, but this was the one gift I gave myself. And it has profoundly changed every aspect of my life, my relationship with my partner, my relationship with my children, which were both pretty fantastic to begin with. My business is 10x'd. My presence has 10x'd, definitely.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you for being so raw and open and just sharing the entire journey with us, the good, the bad, the ugly, the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the resilience to push through it all.
Yeah, I really want to acknowledge the two of you. I know building a business, no matter what the business is, it's not easy. There's roller coasters, ups and downs, disappointments, setbacks, and wins. And Charles, you having a vision, first of all, thank you for having that vision and really bringing it to the world, because you're changing lives every single day. And Christina, I want to acknowledge you for putting your life on hold, really, and stepping into and partnering with Charles on his vision and having it be a part of your shared vision as well, because the two of you together are such a power couple in this space of healing, and how you are, I refer to you as disruptors, right? Kind, caring, loving disruptors, and really standing in what you're committed in doing and how you're changing the world. So I just want to say thank you to you both for doing what you do as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
We're all
You're welcome.
Yeah, we're all
It's a thank you fest.
Yeah, we're all in this, this big healing the world one way or another, and coming together and and making a real positive impact.
Yeah, we are. And I'm really proud of all of us doing what we're doing. And I think like attracts like, and to build this beautiful community we have here in the Naples and Bonita Springs area. We're just so blessed and lucky to have been able to find each other and really step into a bigger vision on what we're all individually up to and collectively doing it together. This is special, and we're fortunate to be able to have this together. So thank you.
I couldn't agree more. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of the My Self Wellness Podcast. And if nobody's told you that they love you lately, we do.
Have a blessed day, everyone.